Before the screaming crowds, before stadiums and hysteria, the Beatles were just four young men trying to prove they belonged in the music industry. They weren't icons yet. They weren't legends. They were still being judged, doubted, and quietly dismissed by many in London's record business. But everything began to change with one song. A song that didn't just climb the charts, but crossed an invisible line of legitimacy. A song that earned the Beatles their first silver record and quietly announced that this band was no longer a gamble. That song was Please Please Me.
Why do I always have to say?
In late 1962, the Beatles were still living on borrowed time. Love Me Do had charted modestly, but no one at EMI was convinced it meant anything long-term. To the industry, the Beatles were still an experiment, a noisy Liverpool group with charm, but questionable staying power. George Martin liked them, but even he wasn't certain the public would. Another failure could have ended their recording career before it truly began. When the band entered Abbey Road again, there was pressure, not fame yet, but fear. Fear that this might be their last real chance. Please Please Me was sharper, faster, and more confident than anything they had recorded before. John Lennon pushed his vocal to the edge, Paul locked into tight harmonies, and the band sounded suddenly urgent, like they knew something the world didn't yet. George Martin later admitted he had initially wanted to slow the song down. Instead, he let the band speed it up, and that decision changed everything. When Martin heard the final version, he reportedly told them, "You've just made your first number one." For the first time, belief replaced doubt. By early 1963, Please Please Me was everywhere. Radio, shops, jukeboxes, the song moved fast, carried by excitement that felt different from ordinary pop success. On April 5, 1963, the Beatles received their first silver disc, awarded for selling over 250,000 copies of the single. It wasn't just a sales milestone. In the British music industry, a silver record meant respect. It meant you were no longer a novelty, you were real. To fans today, awards can feel routine, but in 1963, this moment was life-changing. The silver record told promoters, journalists, and executives that the Beatles were no longer a regional curiosity. It validated George Martin's faith. It silenced skeptics at EMI. And for the band themselves, it proved something deeply personal. They belonged here. John later said that early success felt surreal, but Please Please Me was when it stopped feeling like luck and started feeling earned. Love Me Do will always be remembered as their debut, but it was Please Please Me that opened the door. It was the song that crossed the threshold between potential and arrival. Without it, there is no album recorded in a single day. No Beatlemania explosion, no cultural takeover. This silver record wasn't about ego, it was about survival. George Martin rarely celebrated loudly, but this moment mattered to him. He had taken a risk on a band many colleagues doubted. Please Please Me proved that instinct, taste, and trust still mattered in pop music. It confirmed that the Beatles weren't just performers, they were artists with momentum. This was the first time Martin could look at them and think, this is only the beginning. When people talk about the Beatles' rise, they often jump straight to hysteria. But before the madness, there was this quiet, decisive moment. A silver record handed to four young men who still carried their own amplifiers. No one knew how far they would go. But from this point on, there was no turning back. Please Please Me wasn't just a hit. It was the Beatles' first proof, to the world, to their producer, and to themselves, that they were more than a hopeful band from Liverpool. It earned them their first silver record, yes, but more importantly, it earned them belief.